if your customers are trying to find your business online, but instead of finding you, they find your competitors? Now, more than ever, it's time to make sure you have the right SEO to make your business stand out online. Welcome to Go Mind Your Business with Terry Bork, presented by Extreme Marketing Concepts, putting your business in front of the hungry herd of buyers who are looking for you right now. Extreme Marketing Concepts, helping you drive more traffic, dominate the market, and crush your competition. And now, here's Terry.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Go Mind Your Business. My name is Terry Bork, and I'm so excited that you're all joining me here again today. It's October, and we're moving right along with this year. And, you know, I have a great guest to share with you today. His name is David Baer. David, welcome to our program today.
Well, thank you so much, Terry. Very, very excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I want to share with our audience why I'm so excited to have you on. David, he's a marketer as well, but what I love is that he has a course in wine, and I want to share that with you because it's so awesome. I think we're getting into the gift-giving time of year, and wine is a very popular gift for this time of year. And I don't know about you, but I'm learning about wine and what wine works well with what food. And I wanted to share David with you today so maybe he can dispel some myths and share a little bit with us today. So again, David, I'm so excited to have you.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I look forward to getting into it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let me share your bio a little bit with everybody just so they can get familiar with who you are. David likes to call himself an accidental entrepreneur. He's an expert in online lead generation and conversions, specializing in wine marketing and solo entrepreneurs. His focus is on Facebook marketing and display advertising, and the sales funnel that his clients build behind them is designed to build authority for businesses and build relationships with their prospects and customers. David practices what he preaches, and he uses the methods that he teaches to promote his own consumer wine consulting and seminar business, which he's run since 1999. And you can find David at his website at baeronmarketing.com and http://winebear.net. So again, I am so excited to have David with us here today. Welcome again.
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So David, how did you get started with wine?
Well, it's actually a longer story than wine, because I started out as a stage manager, worked in the theater industry, but then I ended up working with a lot of corporate clients, and I would always go out to dinner with these guys, and wine just seemed like a natural, interesting part of the experience of being out dining with these corporate executives who I had to sort of entertain in order to get their business, and so that's where it started. I've always been, really interested in food, and wine came along as part of the package. So that's where it all began.
Awesome. Well, it's really exciting to know somebody who knows all about wine and what's inside that bottle, and what I should bring when I'm going to go to dinner. I want to impress my family and friends, or even give a nice bottle of wine for the holidays as an appreciation gift for doing business with me, or as a gift to a hostess family who I'm going to for company maybe, or if I'm entertaining at home. So many ways we use wine these days, right? So let's talk about what's inside the wine, and can you tell me a little bit about red wine and white wine and how
Sure.
you use?
Sure. Well, let me back up again to say that I was working with these clients who I mentioned earlier, and out of my relationship with them, I started doing sort of just little wine parties, sort of casual things with a lot of them. And then because my experience moved to me wanting to know more about wine, I would learn more. Then I would start teaching people in these casual settings, and then people would say, hey, would you mind coming over and entertaining my guests, that sort of thing. So I started building a business, and this was back in the late 90s, and ultimately I started doing events for a lot of my theater and corporate event clients just coming over to their house and doing a wine event or doing a team building event for their staff or that sort of thing. And I got lots of questions just like the one you've just asked me. You know, what's important about what's inside the bottle? Why should we care? How do we get through this whole process of figuring out the food and wine? What do we do at restaurants when, you know, we're put on the spot? All of those questions. And so, you know, getting back to your original question, I think that wine is ultimately just about drinking and pleasure and enjoyment. But we've gotten this sense that it's so much more involved, that it's so much more of a big issue for people, that they're intimidated by it, and they want to ask questions like, you know, how do I decide, or, you know, what's the difference between the red and white? What am I supposed to do? And my answer to all of that is just open the bottle and taste it and experience it. And I think you're giving yourself you're not giving yourself enough credit for being able to figure it out yourself.
Ah, awesome point. I like that. Sampling is good, right? Julia
Yep.
Child did it every episode, and she made a meal, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, there we go. So perfect. So once people start to acquire a taste for wine, does that generally, you know, if I say, oh, I like more of a sweeter wine, can I get that in red as well as in white?
Yes, you know, there are more wines available on the market in more flavor profiles, more broader characteristics than ever before, and all of them at a much higher qualitative level than ever before. So yes, you can find sweet red wines, you can find sweet white wines, you can find sweet pink wines, and even orange and brown wines. I don't think we need to get into those today, but there are lots and lots of wines of sort of every discipline, every variety out there. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So what will people get for themselves once they understand wine better?
Well, I think, you know, it has to do partially with the circumstances that people are encountering wine. And you know, I gave the example earlier of a lot of the business clients that I've taught over the years, needing or feeling a need to impress their guests at a dinner. This is certainly the same thing that a lot of people, if they're out on a date, just a social occasion, might feel. They want to make sure that when that whole wine thing happens at the fancy restaurant, that they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And you know, a lot of what I teach people is exactly what I just said earlier. Just sort of do it, and you'll figure it out, and you'll feel you don't need to worry about the pomp and the circumstance around it. So, you know, I've missed the specific question that you've asked me, so I'm going to ask you to re-ask it. But the point ultimately is that wine is not as big a deal as most of us make it.
Okay. Well, you just answered the question right there, so it's perfect. You know, but you know, you went somewhere, and I wanna elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure.
When you're thinking about a wine to give as a gift to maybe somebody you've done business with during the past year, is price something that somebody should consider, or are they considering maybe a wine that they enjoy and they want to share with the client, and if it isn't an expensive wine, or what's the best process really to help somebody select that right wine gift for a client?
Well, wine gifts are an interesting question. I think it all has to do, as almost every wine experience has to do, with context. So you really need to, you know, say, all right, is the person who is receiving the gift interested in wine? Do they care about wine? Is it important to them? What, you know, if you know that, maybe you want to find out a little bit about the types of wines they like. Are they, you know, a big fan of wines from a particular region in the world? And then you can do one of two things if you know that. If you know that they're a huge lover of, you know, California Cabernets or wines from Bordeaux, well, you could either get something from that region or find something new. Go into a wine shop and say, you know, I have to give my employees a gift, and I have this one guy who, you know, absolutely loves Bordeaux. I'd like to give him something new that he's probably never discovered before. Can you, and I think that's a great way to just be a wine consumer in general, is always ask questions like that. So that's one way, is knowing who the recipient is. Another approach is, if you've had a personal experience with a wine, you've traveled someplace and you've enjoyed the wines of that area, and you want to share something about the experience that you've had with the recipient, well, that's another great approach. So, it's all about context and what is most appropriate given your relationship with somebody. That second one is a little bit more personal. And, so giving a gift that is saying, here's a part of me that I want to share with you, is sort of what that does. So there's lots of approaches there, but I would say that the question of price is, unless it's it's an important thing to the recipient, it's immaterial. There's a lot of great wines out there starting at like $12 or $15, and if they're not a major label supermarket brand, and it's going to be an interesting, fun discovery for the recipient, and that's okay.
Okay, awesome. Is there really a difference in a cheaper bottle of wine than there is in a very expensive bottle of wine that people can definitely taste, or sometimes, or not always?
Yeah, the answer on the price issue is there's lots of reasons why wines are available at different prices. I would say that the higher priced wines in general, and this is a generalization, will be either rarer, smaller production, or they have been they're harvested from a very specific site, and so there's not a lot of it. Maybe they are intended for long aging, so there's 3 barrels of this particular lot of grapes from our vineyard, and we want to set them aside so there's that. There's also the prestige bottling that some wineries create, and those really, I would say, are not necessarily better. They're just different and more distinctive, and the fact of the matter is that higher priced wines, because they're different and more distinctive, don't tend to be as broadly appealing, right? They're not wines for the masses. They're wines for people who understand and appreciate that there's something different about these wines, and so that's what but there are absolutely amazing wines in that $15 to $20, $15 to $30 range, that are expressive, that really have great character, that are not just juicy, fruity, fermented grape juice. They're interesting, and there's a sense of place and all of the things that us wine geeks care about in wines that are not very expensive.
Got it. Thank you. That's awesome to know that. Now, I find myself and friends of mine, we're kind of confused when we sit down to dinner and we want to order a nice wine to go with our meal. Is there maybe some tips that you can share with us on wine pairing?
Sure. There's a few approaches I take to wine pairing in general. There's this old adage that I think we all, if we know anything about wine, we know drink red wines with red meats and drink white wines with fish and chicken and that sort of thing. And that is true, and it's a really good starting point, but it's not the ending point. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I came from the Northeast, and as soon as I moved out here, you see salmon on every menu and every table. But our local grape that we're known for here in the state of Oregon is Pinot Noir, a red grape, right? It is a classic pairing with salmon. Salmon's a fish. Pinot Noir is a red grape. They shouldn't belong together, but they do, because there are characteristics of each that work just so beautifully together. Salmon is a bolder, richer fish, a lot more oil content. Pinot Noir is a lighter red wine, and so it has the ability and the versatility to pair well with certain fish. And so there are ways to get beyond that red, and white distinction. That's the old school pairing method. So I would look at things like, what's the weight of the meal that you're eating? A good example that I've talked about before is thinking about a hearty dish, a rich dish like a stew or something, versus a dainty little light and vibrant dish like a salad or something that's bright and crisp. Well, finding wines with similar personalities to those foods is a great way to pair. That's just one approach. I can go on and on for the rest of our interview just about pairing food and wine.
Oh, I know you can, but that's really helpful for myself and for audience, because a lot of times when you're going to go someplace to somebody's home, you're going to kind of know maybe what the hostess or something is going to be preparing. So it can make a nice stop to pick up something that complements a nice meal. So thank you for those tips. Perfect for me.
Indeed. I will say, Terry, that on that gift giving thing, the etiquette, and this is something that people who give gifts of wine don't necessarily know, is there's no expectation that your host is going to have to or want to open that bottle.
Good
so
point.
It's great to establish that in advance. Hey, thanks for the invitation. I'd love to contribute something to the meal. Can I bring a bottle of wine? What are you preparing? That's a way to address that that situation that you've just outlined. If you just show up with a bottle of wine, it may be received graciously and put away for your host to enjoy at some future date.
I've had that happen to me before, and then I was kind of bummed, right? I'm like, wow, I spent all that time and effort to get that one bottle of wine, and it didn't even make it to the table.
Exactly. So don't necessarily bring something that you want to drink that night, I guess.
Got it. Hey, that's a wonderful tip, and you heard it here.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Thanks for bringing me back to reality, right? You forget these things sometimes. Well, I want to talk. I know that you have your wine confidence course that just came out. Share a little bit about that with our viewers so that they can understand a little bit about what that is.
Sure. Well, I put this course together. I think in the introduction you said that I'm I forget taste my own medicine, or I'm following my own guidelines. I have been in the wine business and in the marketing business for a long time, and as I've been teaching people throughout these years, I have gotten lots and lots and lots of questions, as I said earlier, about sort of how do we deal with the wine etiquette thing? How do we deal with the whole intimidation of the sommelier coming over to the table, and what are we supposed to do? So I put together a course which is not a typical, all right, here's your wine basics, these are the wine countries, and these are the different grapes you need to know, but rather a shortcut approach for people who want to enjoy wine, but they don't want to have to become a wine expert or know the technical details of wine in order to just enjoy drinking it, right?
Right.
So I put together this course specifically for that audience of people who would love to just get past the intimidation factor and enjoy wine. That's pretty much what it's about.
Oh, fantastic. So if somebody was to get started in your course and start learning about wine, and I know you've got wine cheat sheets, and you teach how to select the proper wine for your dinner, and proper etiquette on what to do and not to do with the cork, and so many other things that are just nifty tips inside your course. What could somebody's life look like, this holiday season, or, and then going into next year, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days out? How could their life, change just by knowing about wine?
Well, I think the two types of people who are going to benefit from this course most are people who, well, either a chronic dater who's always going out on dates. Maybe they'll stop being a chronic dater because they have impressed that person across the table by them not trying to, show off their fake wine knowledge, which is amazingly something that so many wine servers and sommeliers tell me they see all the time. So how to just be humble and ask questions and show your real self. It may actually impress that person across the table a little bit more. The other audience is people who use wine and meals and in business dinners in business encounters, and it's the very same lesson. I have found a lot of employers, and I've done this when I've had to hire people too, will take a prospective employee out to dinner and test them. And the way that they test them is to see how they treat the servers at the restaurant, right? I'm sure that many of your business audience, will know this approach to interviewing. and it's really to understand how somebody's going to relate to people who report to them in the business situation. Well, I would suggest that by going through the process of my course, people will understand how to, again, show their real selves and be humble and say, I don't know everything. Let's work through this process together. Let's have a discussion here at the table. Let me respectfully ask the wine professional who's here to help us and acknowledge that I don't know it all, and I'm going to use the expert's advice. And so that's really what the course is about, and it's how to have those encounters with the wine professionals, understanding the context of all of the wine etiquette stuff that intimidates and scares so many of us.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Thank you for answering that. And I really like how you bring that example in with the interview, and then just being real with your prospective employer, even the restaurant itself, and how to actually get a really great bottle of wine with your meals that you'll be proud of and that you'll probably enjoy a lot just by sharing what you like about wine. So perfect. Are there maybe some roadblocks that people find when they're trying to use your course and start ordering wine?
Well, I don't know that there are any roadblocks when they get inside the course, because the course is intended to help them through any roadblocks. But I think one of the things that many of us are hung up on are things that are just part of our common knowledge or common cultural understanding of the subject of wine. And this has to do with fine dining as well. A lot of us are not comfortable in that situation, but we're forced into it, and we don't know if we're doing everything correctly sometimes. And so the point of an aspect of the course is really helping people understand that in today's day and age, that old school fancy dining and intimidating sommelier, they don't exist really, and that there's even classy fine dining restaurants are much more casual and approachable. So that's part of it. Also, just getting rid of a lot of the things that we've thought about wine from the past. I was at a restaurant the other night, and I sat down next to somebody who, they sat down, the drink order was placed, and they said, yeah, I'll have the Chardonnay. They didn't look at a wine list. They didn't even, ask what other options they had. It's just like, that's the drink that they had. And that's been going on for 3 decades now. Chardonnay and Merlot were the drinks in the 1980s when wine became a popular thing here in the U.S. So how to get past that that history that we have with wine and actually move on to interesting, exciting exploration of wine if it matters to you. And I guess that's another important point is it doesn't have to matter at all. Mm-hmm. It may not be an important issue for a lot of people, and that's okay.
But you won't even, maybe if you're ordering just that Chardonnay because you're sitting down at dinner, you may not even know that there could be something else that's different from a Chardonnay that you might enjoy more with your wine if you just took a moment to ask the waiter or the sommelier, hey, I want to try something, in that's kind of similar to this type of a wine. Could you suggest something for me that I might enjoy with my meal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is such a great approach. I would much rather have seen that person at the next table sit down and say, I always drink Chardonnay. I hear you guys have a great wine list. Dazzle me with something new, or introduce me to something. Because then they can engage in a conversation that might result in that customer, that patron, learning more not just about wine, but about themselves and their own taste preferences.
Right. Well, the other thing that I love, I like to talk about strategies, right? We talk about roadblocks where people get stuck. One of the things that I loved in your program was the strategy with, how to select a wine from the wine menu, and a great way for the sommelier to work with you in the restaurant based on what you're pointing to in the wine list. And I thought that some of those strategies were brilliant. I don't want to expose those.
They're great little secrets in the wine industry, but I think the point is that the restaurant staff, the wine servers, are your friends and your allies, and there is an understanding that they have about their role in the relationship with certain, clients, certain customers at a restaurant. They know that a lot of people are there on a social occasion like a date, and there's an agenda going on at the table, and the same thing with a lot of business dinners, and that they are a knowing accomplice in the process.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I loved a lot of your strategies and a lot of your tips that you drop throughout the course. And you kind of take a lot of the guesswork out of, how can I not look like an idiot? How can I look really smart when I'm going out to dinner, or I want to impress a date, or a colleague, or a prospective client, or just even my family, right? Thinking like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to show you how to properly order wine at dinner tonight. So,
But the point is, you don't need to know anything about wine, nor do you need to pretend that you know about wine in order to get through this experience. And that's I think that's the key.
oh, I love that. I love how you just make it so simple. I loved your program. I've been through it, and there's several sections I've listened to several times because I'm like, oh, I need to understand this so much more. And guys, you can check it out. The link is here. It's gomindyourbusiness.com/wine. It's gomindyourbusiness.com/wine, and you'll learn all about wine confidence, and what wine confidence actually is, and what it means. And it's just such a great program, and I think you should check it out. We're getting into those holidays now where you want to give the right gift, and you're going to be going and doing a lot more entertaining, I think, than what we normally do through the year. So what are some action steps, David, that you would love to see people get started with at this point?
I think action steps for anybody is really understanding that wine is just a beverage. I used to work for a sort of fancy schmancy wine importer who had some really high-end wines, and she said to me one day, and she said this all the time to all the staff, you guys, it's just wine. Get over it. And and I think that's something that wine professionals at the end of the day, we know that. But the consumer doesn't always know that, and so that's probably the biggest takeaway that I can offer is to just understand that this is just another beverage. Think about it in the same way you might think about anything else you're drinking. It's a very serious subject to some people, but it really doesn't need to be.
Oh, fantastic, and great tips there. So again, guys, the link is right here. I can never find my hand in relationship to the lower third, but it's right down here. Gomindyourbusiness.com/wine. And this was so awesome for me, David. I really loved that you were able to come on our program today and share your experiences with wine and educate us a little bit on wine a little bit more. I know that I have a greater understanding now that I've gone through your program. So thank you so much.
Well, terrific. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was great. So is there any final words that you'd like to leave us with today?
I would just say, go out there, explore the wines that are in your community and in the world surrounding you, and if there's an opportunity to have a new, fun tasting experience, take full advantage of it.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And again, thank you for being here today. And guys, on Go Mind Your Business, we love talking with business owners, men and women who are doing something to bring value to their community. And I'd love to share these people with you so that you can get to know them better on how they're adding value to their community. So just reach out and let me know better. And you know what? Until we meet next time, go mind your business and have a fantastic day. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Go Mind Your Business with Terry Bork, presented by Extreme Marketing Concepts. If you want to drive more traffic, dominate the market, and crush your competition, find out how by visiting our website, www.extrememarketingconcepts.com. And join Terry next time for another episode of Go Mind Your Business.